Well, I left the United States of America because I was being persecuted in the county in which I was a revered lawyer for being a Muslim. So I said, thank goodness I did. And I think Allah must have inspired me. I just said, I'm getting out of here. I want to be in a place where I can have freedom of religion. And I could have stayed and fought and sued the police department and sued the apartment complex and sued everybody. But I was smart enough to say no. And they hassled me. You have no idea what they put me through. And it was just hell. But when you're in that situation, you shut down and you just get out of there. You don't analyze it because you can't. It was unbelievable that these people that surrounded me in this apartment complex were doing this to me. And I could not believe it. The lies that were told and everything, I couldn't believe it. But anyway, we're about to, okay, so a long time after, when I was in Malaysia, I did some research and I want to go back and at one point, and look at it and then talk about it more. But it talked about the fact that loneliness is a huge factor in the United States and in Canada. And if people are lonely, what they do is, in a way, they scapegoat people that are different than they are in any way. And they scapegoated me because I was happy. Because there I was, I was successful. They were in economic problems. I didn't have any, and there I was. And so they didn't want to look at themselves to say, why is she successful and we aren't? It's instead to try to make me miserable. That's what they were trying to do. And they were doing at the end, they were doing a great job. But rather than sit there and say, put up with that, and even the police department, I tell you, whatever, I could sue them for goodness knows how much money. But instead, I just got out of there and whatever. So it was. And now I am so grateful. Who in the world wants to be in the United States of America? Nobody with a brain. Really. That. And it's getting worse. And it's the loneliness that caused the populism, which makes Trump so popular. So when you analyze it, I totally finally understood why everybody was picking on me. And it was affirming. But what was most affirming, that I had the brains to get out of there, because you're never going to convince those people. They couldn't see my goodness, even though I was decorating my deck with, unicorns and flower displays and everything. That's just bugged them more. Sorry. So anyway, that's it. But I'm so glad that I'm not there. I can't believe what it's like, because America doesn't talk about it all. In San Francisco, there's whole vast neighborhoods you can't go into. You don't hear about that. And even in the county in which I lived, in Marin County, the second richest county in all of the United States, in San Rafael, I know from people that are there, homeless have taken over. They can hardly go out. And so I'm so glad I'm not there. Needless to say, yeah. So anyway, there, I did escape. Well, it took a while because it was difficult. Because I first fled to Abu Dhabi, which was, it was all very awkward. But I was afraid for my life in Abu Dhabi, and for reasons which we don't have to get into, but for reasons. But this small hotel that I was in, the Premier Inn across from the Abu Dhabi then airport, new airport now, the staff at the Premier Inn, especially one man in charge of security, said to me, I'm going to keep you safe. And he did. And then when you don't feel safe, you're not feeling very creative. And I met this young woman who was from India, and she was staying overnight, and she was getting on the plane the next day to fly to Vancouver. And I said to myself, huh? I just have to cross the street and I can get on an airplane and go back to Canada? And it was true. And so I did, with a great deal of anticipation about what I would find when I returned to Edmonton. And it didn't happen either. So anyway, then it was Saudi Arabia, and finally Malaysia. Well, in some ways, that's a good question, because in some ways, after I read what the motivating factor for these people to pick on me was, then now I look back on it differently. And I look back on it, fortunately now, with pity. You know, those people are stuck, and they're even more stuck because the rent will keep raising and raising and raising, and they're not going to be able to afford to educate their kids, and their life is hell on earth, I think. And so I pity them. And when I learned what the real situation was, that it wasn't me necessarily, the worst parts of me, it was the best parts of me that they didn't want, and then it was good. And that's a good reason too to have not sued them, you know, because then all of my bad characteristics would be brought forward to justify what happened to me. But when you just leave and say bye, you know, how can I miss you if you don't go away, and stuff like that. I mean, that's a funny line. Then it's better. And so yeah, so now it's better. I found peace. Oh, blessed. I now have a blessed life. I do, especially in KL. Not so much in Penang. What was that? The appetizer, you know, the appetizer in which I was being served rotten oysters. Anyway, yeah. Get out of there quick. Really, that's what I would. That there is nothing here for you at all. And you've got to remember that the place that I was living in was, just a minute, I think I had grandchildren living around. I had people that I worked with for years all around me. But I was totally alienated from them because I take a totally different course. And people don't want you to change. They want you to be the same. And I changed. I could have never made a home there, you know, ever. Yeah. So get out quick. Done.